Linda wandered through the forest with curious eyes. The sky was overcast, thundering, and raindrops trickled down from the leaves to the ground. As she took steps in deep silence, the rustling of the wind among the trees and distant loud screams got lost in between. Listening to the raindrops on one side and her own echoes on the other, she moved through the forest. Suddenly, from the depths of the forest, a scream pierced her ears. Linda's heart began to race rapidly. Her eyes widened with fear, sensing something approaching her in the darkness of the forest. Almost as if every breath was being drawn into her, she listened to the mysterious sound of the forest. In panic, she started to run, losing her footprints in the rain. However, the scream continued to chase her like a haunting ghost. Linda felt lost amidst the deep and wet branches. Finally, when she reached a clearing, she was out of breath. In front of her stood an old and abandoned house. The door was slightly ajar and a light shimmered from inside. Linda decided to enter. As she walked slowly inside the house, everything was dusty and deserted. Suddenly, she noticed a figure standing in front of a mirror. Terrified, she recoiled, but the figure looked at her. It was her own reflection. The scream was her own. As Linda watched her reflection, suddenly, screams from other mirrors around the room echoed. Each mirror told a story of a scream. Linda tried to exit the room, but the door was locked. As the screams from the mirrors intensified, her own reflection advanced towards her. The tearful forest had turned into a labyrinth echoing her own fears. The echoes of screams behind the door came from her own past. In that moment, she realized that this house was a prison of her own fears and regrets. As Linda found herself in the echoes of screams in the mirrors, the sky continued to weep in a melancholic manner. When Linda felt trapped among the mirrors, the rain in the tearful forest intensified. The screams from the mirrors inside the house had now become a melody. As Linda chased her own reflection, each mirror reflected another dark memory. During her efforts to leave the room, as she walked around the mirrors, she came across echoes of memories from her childhood. Each mirror reflected a mistake, a loss, or a regret from her past. Despite her attempts to escape from these mirrors, her own internal fears seemed to have trapped her in a labyrinth. When she stood in front of a mirror, she noticed a change in her expression. Her reflection in the mirror was like a mask stuck to her face, and her eyes sparkled with deep sorrow. As Linda looked into the mirror, she began to feel her own internal conflicts even more profoundly. As she wandered among the mirrors, she entered a room that was different. The walls seemed to be made of her own internal nightmares. Each wall portrayed scenes of moments when she lost her family, hurt her loved ones, or other regrets in her life. As Linda looked at the visual chaos on the walls, she decided to confront her past. However, each scene became more realistic and painful. Tearfully, she had to relive her past mistakes and losses. In that moment, she became a trembling piece resonating with the pain of facing her own internal nightmares. Eventually, the rain in Linda's tearful forest began to slow down. At the end of the labyrinth where she got lost among the mirrors, the door of the house opened again. When she stepped outside, the silence of the forest and a gentle breeze indicated that her internal storm had calmed. As Linda walked out of the forest towards the town, she looked up at the sky. The sky offered her a kind of peace and understanding. The last drops of rain mixed with the salty tears on her face. She had overcome her own internal nightmares, taking a step towards a peaceful future. Linda continued to walk towards the town with the effects of the internal journey she had experienced inside the house still on her. However, there was a feeling of relief. When she arrived in town, the sun shining after the rain seemed like a beacon of hope. While walking through the town, she noticed a change in the expressions of the people. The previous gloom and worry seemed to have been replaced by an atmosphere of joy and tranquility. Watching the sunrise from the sky, Linda felt a sense of peace. While sitting in a cafe, she heard the townspeople chatting joyfully. She understood that her internal journey had not only affected her own nightmares, but also the collective energy of the townspeople. Everyone seemed to have become a part of the inner peace and acceptance. Continuing to wander around the town, Linda realized the power to touch people's lives and make a positive change. Confronting her internal fears had not only affected her own life, but also positively influenced the lives of those around her. Facing internal fears, she had the power to make a positive change in the lives of others. As the night fell slowly, Linda stood under the old plane tree in the town square. The stars in the sky gave her a sense of infinity. Having freed herself from the chains of the past, she looked towards a hopeful future. At the end of the story, Linda's internal journey had come true by confronting and accepting her own nightmares. Learning from the pains of the past, she achieved a positive change both in her own life and in the world around her. Linda stood under the plane tree in the town square, watching the people around her gather joyfully. She carried a sense of internal serenity and a commitment to the townspeople. She saw the sparkle in people's eyes and their laughter, indicating that the town had undergone an internal transformation. One evening, during an event organized in the town square, the townspeople came together. Linda shared the nightmares she had experienced in the past and her own internal journey. Her story inspired others. Some found the courage to confront their own fears, while others decided to take a step towards accepting their pasts. Linda's internal transformation brought hope and optimism to the town. The sun rising after the rain was shining over the town. The darkness of the past had turned into the brightness of the future. One morning, Linda sat under the plane tree in the town square. Among the chirping of birds and the cheerful conversations of the townspeople, she found her internal peace. The town had become a symbol of Linda's internal transformation. While continuing her new life in the town, Linda did not forget the story of the Tearful Forest. Her internal journey had shown the townspeople and herself how powerful confronting fears and making peace with the past could be. And so, Linda's story merged with the internal transformation of the town, opening the doors to a hopeful future. As the night sky sparkled, Linda walked through the streets of the town, having found her internal peace. The story ended here, but Linda's internal transformation had affected every resident of the town and led to a series of positive changes. And thus, the sky continued to shine as a beacon of hope above them.